So I was talking about the breath and how we start by lying down, and the use of props, blankets to lie on or blocks to lie on, in order to create evenness in the body, balance in the body, and openness in the chest. Lots of people don't have a lot of mobility in the rib cage. Breathing is shallow, you sit in chairs, you slump down in sofas, and the pliability of your rib cage and the tone of your diaphragm becomes nil. So through the use of blocks or blankets, we can create some space in the chest and create an invitational atmosphere for the breath, a space that will invite the breath in. Breath has to be a soft, receptive process. Asana, you can be forceful. You can really use your willpower. Hatha yoga means, most people think of it sun and moon, and it is that. But the word hatha is really will. It's force. And so you use willpower in the asanas to overcome resistances, to build strength, to move on. You can't do that in pranayama. You're working with really fine structures. You're working with the lungs, you're working with the heart, the circulatory system, and you're working with the nervous system. And you don't want to be forceful with that. You want to come from a place of softness and receptivity. So lying down allows for that possibility. Lying down on props allows for that possibility with openness and space and as much evenness as is possible. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras has 8 steps in the general path of classical Raja Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, 8 limbs. And on only one of those steps does he say there's a prerequisite. In his first sutra on pranayama, he says, Tasman sati, shvasa prashvasa yorgati vikjedaha pranayamaha. Tasman sati, this having been accomplished. And what he means by that is the previous step, asana. And the reason for that is, first, when you do seated pranayama, you have to have the stability of spine and openness of hips to be able to sit upright with comfort. So on that level, asana is a prerequisite for pranayama. But also asana is a prerequisite for pranayama because it tunes you into the subtle sensations that are involved in working with the breath. How the ribs move, how the ribs hook into the breastbone, whether one rib tilts forward, one rib tilts back will affect how the breath flows. The pliability of your rib cage, the tone of your diaphragm, all of those things are developed through the practice of asana. So they are, in a way, a preparation for pranayama, for working with the breath. And the very process of doing the asanas with proper alignment creates a subtle pranayama in and of its own. Your breath changes when you're aligned in the poses properly and begins to move dirgha sukshma, slowly, subtly, longer. So asana is a preparation for pranayama. The alignment of the asanas is a preparation for effective pranayama. After lying down for a while and you've tuned into the flow of breath in the body, then you can begin to sit up and go through the rigors of learning how to sit with an upright spine and an open chest. That alignment is even more important in pranayama. Here you are, you're working with prana, life force. Obviously this is subtle energy, although its effects can be anything but subtle. How to balance that, how to make those adjustments, require a really heightened sensibility and as much of a sense of balance in the body as possible. Breath is like a liquid. It's going to take the shape of the vessel to a certain extent. So if the vessel is uneven and balanced, then the flow of the breath is going to be uneven and imbalanced. If the flow of the breath is uneven and imbalanced, then the flow of prana in the body is going to be uneven and imbalanced. And energetic imbalances lead to psychological imbalances, confusions, and general discomfort. So alignment is even more crucial when you're dealing with the practice of pranayama, of working with the breath. And again, from having worked with alignment in asana, you're sensitive to subtleties in left and right, subtleties in forward and backward, subtleties in higher or lower, which will then have their effect on how the breath flows, more on one side, more on the other side, more deeply, less deeply. All these alignments that you learn, these adjustments that you learn in asana, then come into play in a much more subtle way in the practice of pranayama. So, alignment then becomes internal in an even much deeper way in pranayama than it does in asana. Because you begin to feel not just the movement of air and whether one rib is higher or one rib is lower, whether your diaphragm moves on one side more than the other, but you begin to feel how the energy of the breath moves inside, and then you're not doing breathing anymore, then you're doing real pranayama, because you begin to sense energy levels in the body, and there are a number of them, and I'm not going to go into all of that today. But that's essentially what you begin to do in the practice of pranayama, is to adjust your energy levels and to balance that energy level out. There are pranayamas that stimulate you, pranayamas that quiet you, pranayamas that focus you, pranayamas that broaden your perspective, spread your consciousness. All of them have different energetic, psychological effects. And so there is a whole mental component to the issue of alignment. On one level, when you're just learning asanas early on and you're learning the shapes of the poses and you're learning how to adjust those poses by working on the alignment of the pose, that requires focus. Iyengar yoga, and really any yoga when you get down to it ultimately, is not whatever yoga. Oh, you know, my arm here, there, whatever. Your results are then going to be whatever results. What you do is you work on getting that alignment, and to do that you have to concentrate and really focus. That's the beginning of the 6th step in the 8 steps, dharana, concentration. You can't be thinking about your MasterCard bill or your dinner date while you're really trying to find out whether your thigh is turned to line up with your shin so you don't twist your knee while you're doing the pose, or your shoulder blades are rolling down so you're not scrunching up your neck while you're in the pose and creating a tension headache in the pose. You're absorbed. You're absorbed through the process of working on your alignment in the pose. So it's helping out physically, avoiding problems. It's helping you energetically by freeing your breath up. And it's bringing your mind to a much more one-pointed, focused state, which is the preliminary for meditation. So Mr. Iyengar is fond of saying Iyengar Yoga is meditation in action. He doesn't really teach sitting there. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I have a sitting practice. But for him, the asanas and the pranayamas are meditation in action. By developing that really deeply focused, one-pointed state of mind with regard to your practice of the asana, your practice of the pranayama, you are brought to a much more subtle vibratory level. The mind in that one-pointed focus becomes quieter. As you really become skilled at this and really work on alignment in increasingly subtle, energetic ways, then you're not distracted at all. You really are just completely involved in doing the pose. And that's dhyana, that's meditation. That's the next to last step. Samadhi is complete absorption. There comes a point at which you are so involved, you're no longer adjusting the pose through alignment. This has to turn that way, that has to turn that way. You're not lost in technique anymore. You are simply in the asana, and that is samadhi, or you are the breath, the flow of the breath, and that is samadhi. That's an early stage of samadhi. So there is the possibility of confusing the importance of alignment to say that yoga is all about technique. It's not. Technique is a vehicle. The alignment, on a certain level, is a vehicle. It is a way for you to move so deeply into yourself that ultimately you let go of that kind of alignment. You let go of that kind of